Now, Jen, I want to turn to today's NAPLAN results. 1 in 10 students are not meeting national standards for literacy and numeracy. It's worse in the Northern Territory. 1 in 3 students were in the bottom NAPLAN band and they need additional support. So we're seeing here the disparity between Indigenous and non-Indigenous students as well. Across the country, 1 in 3 Aussie children are in the bottom 2 bands in need of additional support or developing in just basic numeracy and literacy skills. Here's what the Education Minister, Jason Clare, had to say today.
What you'll find is that children are identified as falling behind in literacy and numeracy, and they're taken out of the classroom 4 times a week for what might be 30 or 40 minutes with 1 teacher and 2 or 3 children. And that intense support helps a child to learn much quicker and to catch up and then go back into the mainstream classroom.
I mean, surely catch-up classes and extra tutoring isn't the answer here. You know, children spend a long time in school. So what does need to happen?
Yeah, it's just bizarre, Sharri. I'm in 2 minds about NAPLAN because you speak to a number of parents, especially around little children that have to sit these tests, and obviously the anxiety sort of takes over and that could potentially skew some of the results that we see. But the fact that it seems to be across the board that Australians are really failing in all of the basic markers of education in those early years is really disastrous. And the fact that the federal government's answer is to, catch-up tutoring is actually quite revolting, considering, Jason Clare continually says the same script in Parliament. The fact that, we need to make sure that everyone has an equitable advantage when it comes to education around the country, then sink, more resources into ensuring that our education system is more sustainable. Money may not be the answer, but making sure that we look at teachers to be, in that top band of tertiary education, making sure we up the ATAR or the HSC score that's needed to enter into an education degree and make it, an occupation like they do in Finland and Scandinavia to be an education, an occupation or a career that's to be revered. And I think that's one of the answers, I think.
Now, I want to turn to the profits that the supermarkets are making. Woolworths announced that it made a $1.6 billion full-year profit after tax, up 4.6% from the year before. At the same time, Deakin University this week found that frozen bags of vegetables are up by 18%. The cost of canned tuna up by 25%. Meat and dairy prices are also up. I mean, it seems like products in the supermarket across the board are going up. So what do you think about this? Is it right that the supermarkets are recording record profits?
Well, it's really interesting. The only winners here are the shareholders of, organisations like Woolworths and Coles and those big supermarkets. I mean, because Coles posted a similar profit only yesterday. So I think a lot of people on the street would just be going, well, how come I'm paying, X amount of dollars for, I think pears especially are now up 18%. Meanwhile, you speak to farmers on the ground and they're still getting the same price. They're not getting that markup at the farm gate. So it's the fact of the matter is the shareholders are getting that windfall. And of course, those CEOs come out and say, because of the fact that we need to make sure that there's wage growth and things like that, and the fact they can't get staff. That is one instance, but it goes to the wider fact that the federal government and state and territory governments really need to start looking at cost of living, because this is only going to get worse as we head into the warmer months.
No, exactly. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in South Africa. He was meant to arrive in South Africa this week for the BRICS Business Forum, but he unexpectedly skipped his keynote speech. He sent his Commerce Minister instead to speak on his behalf. In the speech, the Commerce Minister criticised the United States, but no word about Xi's absence, why he wasn't there, what happened. This is quite curious, Jenna.
So curious. And when it comes down to it, I think it's really interesting. If we've got one person on the case to what's going on in China, you, Ms. Markson, should be on it, because we also found out this week that the first, commercial jet from North Korea landed in Beijing this week. So I think we need to get to the bottom of what exactly is going on. But just back to that speech, I thought it was absolutely galling when they're talking about, the hegemony of the United States and things like that. And they just want to have, an environment that is free and open. Like, honestly, the CCP talking about freedom, pull the other one, because I'm pretty sure it plays Jingle Bells.